Podcast. Hope you're enjoying this. I can't believe we're on episode 4 already, but I tell you what, I am hanging today. Anybody who was watching my stream on the United Stand last night or my tweets on Twitter will know I was a little bit drunk last night and I'm hanging today. Probably should talk about alcohol addiction, not Fortnite addiction, but we have got lots of things to talk about. Bee Gees versus the Beatles, Sopranos ending, favourite biscuit, Piers Morgan, Gary Lineker, mean tweets, police career, conspiracy theories, homosexuality, boxing in YouTube, loads, and whatever else you lot bring. So yeah, looking forward to it. I'm not drunk anymore, but look, the opening thing is going to be Fortnite addiction. There's going to be a lot of things we're going to talk about. That's what we do on here, but a little bit of seriousness. A lot of people have said to me, why don't you play Fortnite? And I've watched my nephew play it. I've seen some of my mates play it, and it looks like the sort of game that visually isn't that great, but it's definitely got playability. I can see why people get addicted to it. And it's very interesting because I was out for drinks last night with a mate of mine who's got children the same age as mine, and my kids are not allowed to play Fortnite. I don't let them play it. Oh God, I'm an ogre. You're evil. You're evil, Goldbridge. They're constantly saying, can I play Fortnite? But I know so many people, and I'm in like Facebook groups with people I went to school with and things like that, and they're forever talking about their kids' addiction to Fortnite. And my nephew's the same as well. He plays it a lot. He's been caught at 3 o'clock in the morning, getting up and playing it in his bedroom and stuff like that. It's a concern, isn't it? And I think that the addiction in its very real sense is an issue. But I sympathise on one side because when I was a child, I had addictions to things like I was addicted to fig rolls and Vimto. But no, seriously, I was computer games championship manager when I was like 13, 14. I tell you what, when I was 12, Graham Taylor's football manager. I mean, who remembers that golden nugget? I was addicted to that as well. You know, all I used to think about, I'd sit at school writing notes of York City players I was going to scout. Absolutely loved it. So I think many children by their nature do have addictive personalities, but it's very difficult for parents in that situation. Do games like Fortnite have a responsibility? Where's my arm gone? No, they don't. They're there to make money, of course they are. Do parents and friendship groups have a responsibility? Yes, but it's very, very difficult. And it's interesting because I would never play it, of course, but I mean, Trading Cards and More says he's addicted to crack, but crack, that's just filth. But I think the Fortnite thing, I can't talk too much about it. I can just say that very bluntly, because somebody asked me to talk about this, it comes down to parenting, and sometimes, you know, everyone's going to parent differently. That's the rules. But I think where I wanted to just say very quickly about it is, I guess I get a little bit frustrated and tired of the snowflake sort of genre where they talk about things like Fortnite and say the game should be cancelled, the game should be stopped. You know, that's nonsense. That's really ridiculous, because the reality is, like, my middle daughter wants to play Fortnite. She's never played it. She's watched her nephew play it, but she's never played it because I won't allow her to have it, because I know what will happen. She will become addicted to it. She'll want to be on it, and then, you know, it's going to be a more tough love stopping them playing it than if they ever do play it. I say, look, you know, go and get my old Amstrad out. You can play Pong. It's far more playable than Fortnite. It's a tough one. I mean, look, a lot of people say to me, oh, you know, you've clearly got a drink problem because, like, I have a drink when I'm doing the United Stand and stuff like that. Well, I clearly haven't got a drink problem. I think the last time I had a drink was... Well, why am I wandering off into that, actually? That's irrelevant. Maybe there's something subliminally. Have I got a drink problem? No, I haven't. I haven't had a drink since last weekend. I am hanging. I'm hanging today. I really am. Not everyone is addicted, to be fair, says, oh yeah. Look, I sort of wanted to wander into depression here as well. Not that your lot are depressing me, but I wanted to wander into this as well, because mental health is very subjective, very real, and affects everybody in different ways. I'm a firm believer in that. I think that some people can wake up on a Tuesday morning like me, and that day just always seems to bother me, and it's hard to lift a mood no matter what you do. You know, some people deal with it through physical exercise. I think that's a very, very good thing, because it does, you know, scientifically proven, release certain positive endorphins or whatever it is they cause. Some people wake up every day and they feel like they've got a cloud over their heads. Some people are so deep into depression and mental health issues that the control of their own personality is almost impossible. some people just get moods where they just don't feel that good. So I think that it affects everybody. I almost thought about starting the show by saying, like, hello, I'm depressed, because I think that is the really important thing, is that people discuss it, and also they accept it for what it is and don't see it as a weakness. I mean, we had that little thing last year, didn't we? I'm going to talk about Piers Morgan and people like that in a little bit, but we had this whole man up thing, didn't we? That everyone was talking about, you've got to man up and all that. But it's not really that. That's not really that relevant, I don't think. I think it's all about keeping it out in the open and being honest about it. That's what I think it is. And I don't want to talk about it for ages and ages, because this is a podcast and I want to keep it upbeat. But all I would say is that I think everybody has a certain level of it, and it can grip you and it can take hold of you. And I think it's really important that you keep hold of it yourself, and not yourself, that you share it and keep vocal about it. And even if you haven't got anyone to talk to, there are loads of things out there, whether it's Samaritans or whatever like that. Most important thing, if you are feeling down or depressed or whatever, and everyone's got different reasons for feeling like that. It could be family members ill, it could be you're ill, it could be loss of job, it could be something very, very trivial, like you've run out of hobnobs. Now that sounds like I'm taking the piss, but actually I'm not. I'm saying that you don't know what's going to spark an event for you, because the mind carries a lot of baggage. And you could have trauma that's been going on for years and years and years that you don't realise you haven't dealt with. And one little tiny thing, you could see a roadkill on the road and it could snap you. And that's what it is. The mind is fragile. So I think the most important thing is just to accept it when you feel like that, and try and communicate it to other people. And if you've got no one who will listen to you, pick up the phone, Samaritans, whatever, because they will listen to you. There's always someone. There's always somebody. I firmly believe that. Why is Britain a BTEC USA, says Jordan Thompson. I don't want to be controversial, but America, weren't you invented by the Europeans? Whether it's the Irish or the English or the French, that's your background. So you're sort of slagging yourself off, really, isn't it? And Ian Turlington's right. Most adults suffer from depression, but never admit it. Talk about the music that you like. Halam says Star Wars Episode 8 made me sick for a week because it's that bad. It's interesting as well, just very quickly on Star Wars. 20 years, isn't it, this year, since Manchester United won the treble, but also since the release of Phantom Menace, which is without doubt the shittest Star Wars film I've ever seen. I revisited The Last Jedi over Christmas, and it's watchable. It's not terrible, but it's watchable. The Phantom Menace you can revisit as many times as you like, and it's crap, much like the Attack of the Clowns. And what about the ending of The Sopranos? Let's whiz through that. And favourite biscuit, I want to do that one as well. Let's keep it a little bit upbeat. So get in with your favourite biscuits. The ending of The Sopranos, I've seen the ending of The Sopranos, but I've not seen all of The Sopranos. But I went and watched the end of the... it's a series I do need to watch fully. I've only watched about season 1.5. And it is good. But I just keep finding better series that I want to watch. But I did purposely watch the ending of The Sopranos so I could answer this question today. And I didn't like it. It's though I personally, and it doesn't matter whether you like books, music, film, sex, whatever. I don't like unclear endings. And I say sex in that, when you finish and you're not quite sure whether the other person's really finished and enjoyed it or not. And that's the ending of The Sopranos. And there's a lot of films that are like that as well, where you get that sort of, it's down to your interpretation. It's like the ending of Inception, isn't it, with the spinning top? Is he dreaming? Is it real? Oh, it does start to drop, so he's not dreaming. Or I don't like that. And I know some people do, because that's why you get those endings. Leave it open to your interpretation. But my mind is, well, I interpret it this way, but actually, what if I'm wrong and it's another way? It's like the end of The Revenant, isn't it? Where he's thinking about his wife, he's going up the mountain, it's very, very cold, he's injured, his breathing sort of slows down a bit, and then it ends, and you think, does he die there, or does he not die there? Well, I looked up the real character the book was based on, and he doesn't die there. I think he ends up getting eaten by a bear. I'd probably like to die there. But so, the interpretations of endings, I'd rather just get clarity, thank you. I don't really want anything else. I haven't watched the Ted Bundy documentary on Netflix at the moment. Quite unsettling, says Pratik. I tell you what. I don't know whether it's an age thing. I was talking to my wife about this last week, because I've got like kids, and I think the older you get, the more aware you become of your own mortality. I won't watch bloody David Attenborough or anything like that. I can't. If I was one of them people filming it, like when the lion attacks the gazelle, or that one the other week where the penguin's taking its young up the mountain and the young fall down into a ravine. The penguin can't get to it. The young penguin is injured and can't get out, so the mum just goes off and leaves it to obviously die. And I'm like, if you're the cameraman, go and get the fucking penguin. And obviously the moralists will say, no, you can't intervene. You can't intervene in Mother Nature. Well, I ain't going to bloody film some bloody baby penguins stuck in a ravine, freezing cold, and going to die. I'm going to go and bloody save it. Screw Mother Nature. I'm here now. Go and do something about it. So I hate watching all this natural history stuff. I used to love it when I was a kid, and now I just don't like it because it makes me feel sad. And I don't. And to be honest with you, I would go and do something about it. Mark, I'm sure you'll like Scared Games on Netflix, says Laurie DaCosta. Favourite biscuit for me, I've already given you a spoiler, definitely the Hobnob. Some would say the chocolate Hobnob is a level up. I actually think if you're a dunker of your biscuits in your tea, the chocolate Hobnob can get a little bit messy. But the normal Hobnob, the manufacturing of a Hobnob biscuit, if you've never had it, it's biscuit with oatmeal. And I tell you what, you can dunk it in for a good 2 seconds. It absorbs the tea, and then you can just take it and it won't fall into your tea. Very, very good biscuit. I'm a big fan of the Hobnob. Yes, and I like malted milks as well. A bit left field, I know, but I do like those. Chocolate digestive are probably better than Hobnobs, but they're good. They're good. Bubblegum ice cream, says Tony Mario, is the GOAT. I don't know about that. Mindfunk says, what's your thoughts on cannabis? Look, I hate the smell of it. I was walking through the town the other day, and there was these teenagers, stereotypical. You never see groups of middle-aged men stood under bridges smoking a joint, do you? It's always teenagers. Imagine that. Imagine if you did just see a few old blokes and a couple of women as well. That would make it even better. Stood there in their North Face hiking gear, smoking on a big doobie. It would be great, wouldn't it? Go and get the munchies, Alfred. Go and get the munchies and a big bumper grab bag of Doritos. Yeah, this is good shit, isn't it, Marjorie? But yeah, anyway, there's a couple of youths smoking a joint, and the smell of it to me has always smelt like sausage, like pepperami, and it's I don't like the smell of it. I don't know where I can go with this because of things I've done in the past. I don't know. I'm going to have to get some clarification for the next stream as to whether I can actually discuss about my experiences about this, because I don't know whether I leave myself wide open to things. So I'm not going to go any further than that. Not because I'm happy to, but I just don't know where it leaves me. So I'd have to get some clarity on that. But I know a lot of people who smoke it, and I certainly it's not something that's part of my life and hasn't been for a long time. But it can be an addiction as well. It can have impacts on mental health, but it can also, many people swear by it for being a medicinal thing, for pain and stuff like that. Which, it doesn't surprise me. I mean, H says make cannabis legal in the UK. I wish I was sponsored by Lyle and Scott Anishan, but I'm not. The thing is, it's only like drinking alcohol. I think, sometimes when I have a drink, like last night, I was properly on it. It just relaxes you. It makes you feel good. So I can imagine that cannabis is probably pretty much the same. Whether you should legalise it or not, I don't know. There's a big conversation about that. It's difficult because obviously I think a lot of people think, well, if you legalise cannabis or heroin or whatever, you're going to stop drug dealing. Well, you're not. Because they'll just undercut it. If you can go into Boots and buy a block of cannabis for £1 or £100 or whatever, but let's say £5 for your night's cannabis, there'll be somebody on the street corner around the corner selling an inferior product, but they'll be selling it for £2.50. So you're not going to stop drug dealing because you're still going to get, it's like It's like streaming a Premier League match, isn't it? It's like cheap cigarettes you get from abroad. Well, you can buy them legally. You can watch those things legally, but somebody will undercut it. Let's get to the gays, says Bubble and Squeak. I mean, is gay... I don't think it's a derogatory term in itself, isn't it? I think it's the way that you use it. I'm only going to talk about this very, very quickly, homosexuality. I don't... See, I like to see myself as a man of the world. I am a man. I can't include women in that, unfortunately. But I do. Look, I've changed a lot in the last 6 months. Definitely, I'm a big advocate now of enemies don't need to be rivals. Sorry, rivals don't need to be enemies and all that. And I like to just judge people on who they are and how they come across to me. So that's how I look at things. But this is a bit like racism and sexism and obviously homosexuality and all that lot. My mindset's changed a lot throughout my life because obviously I've been on this planet for over 3 decades, and when I was growing up, the attitude to racism and sexuality and things like that was pretty blunt and pretty nasty at times. It really was. And I don't know why people hide from that. I don't mind people coming out and saying, being pro, I was trying to think of the word, pro, oh, you're a racist or you're a homophobe or you're a sexist. That's fine. But I've said this before, it's all about education to me, because I'm not going to hide from the fact that when I was at school, people used to go around to somebody who was a little bit feminine, calling them pufters and things like that. And I suppose it was an element of bullying. I would never hide from that. And I think some people these days want to pretend that they have been in they do fart in lifts and they don't smell. I think some people have this, well, I suppose you could say, because it's a good interpretation, they have this I'm this whiter than white, I'm pure thing, which obviously is a racist quote, because why is white better than black, etc., which is why I said it. But my point is, I think there's a lot of do-gooders out there now who are my age or older who act like, oh, I've just always been like this, it's disgusting. Well, that's part of the problem, isn't it? Because there are still racists, there are still homophobes, and there are still sexists out there. And the only way you improve it is through education. And in my lifetime, I've grown up at schools and stuff where racism, sexism, homophobia was prevalent, because that was what it was like in those days. There wasn't the education and vocal opposition to it that there is now, and it's fantastic. So I've grown up in a time where it's gone from being everybody was doing it pretty much to some people were doing it to now it's totally unacceptable. And that's the one. Where we are now is where we need to be. So it's all about education, really. I don't get it with homophobia and that. I will always be honest. I guarantee you, when I was at school, I would have called somebody a puff, and knowing they weren't a puff and just doing it just to take the piss out of them, really, because that's what used to happen. Would I do that now, or would I have done that any time in my last 20 years? No, because you grow up, society changes, and you accept that it is wrong, and you learn as a human being. I think people who are still doing it, who still have a problem with homophobia, I think it's really sad. And I think it's one of the ones that is really hard to understand, because I think racism, and this is only my opinion, comes from ignorance and fear, and bigoted views on things like immigration and things like that. Sexism comes from masculinity and arrogance and a false belief that you can do something better than somebody else. But homophobia sort of comes from a place, I suppose it probably comes from fear of the unknown, repulsion, maybe, I don't know. But it doesn't really make any sense, because no one's asking you to do it. It's like in football, there are no gay footballers that we know of, which is absolute bollocks, because statistically, I think, I don't know what the figures are, but I would hazard a guess that 1 in 10 or maybe 1 in 20 men are gay. How many footballers are there in the Premier League? Not one of them are gay. Bollocks. Of course, there'd be a reduced number, because if you are a gay man, you probably don't want to go into that profession. But yeah, I don't get it. I mean, Jordan Thompson says homosexuality is a sin. some people don't believe in religion, Jordan. So that's sort of the end of your conversation there. So my opinion on it is that, look, obviously it's not for me, but I don't get it. I don't get it. 1 in 20, I think it is, Don Robin. Yeah, there you go. There are only two genders. Changed my mind, says Jordan Thompson. Everyone's going to have different opinions, aren't they? What should we talk about next? Yeah, let's talk about this one. I wanted to do this one. So, of course, it's sort of a carry on from last week. It's Piers Morgan, it's Gary Lineker. And Piers Morgan's a bit different to Gary Lineker, really. But what we were sort of talking about it last week, Gary Lineker, when I was growing up, and this is not an attack on Gary Lineker. This is more wonder what was going on then. This is more a don't worship your idols, I suppose. Because when I was growing up, 1990, Italia 90, Gary Lineker's scoring goals, and really liked him as a footballer. And he came across as a bit of he never got a yellow card, and he came across as a sort of ideal, sort of a Juan Mata of today, I suppose. You know, Juan Mata is such a gentleman, well-educated, good footballer. And I think Gary Lineker, when I was growing up, was sort of that person. Then he went to present Match of the Day, and now he does a lot of presenting. But he's also on Twitter, and he's very political in the stuff that he puts across. He's got very strong views, which you've got to respect. But he's got millions of followers, and he's very political about what he talks about. Now, I haven't blocked him. I've just unfollowed him because I don't dislike the bloke, but I have unfollowed him because every now and again I'll see his football tweets, and I don't mind seeing those. But I don't like seeing his political tweets because a lot of his opinions I don't agree with. But he's putting it across to so many people. And I was talking about this the other day about a certain YouTuber that I've had issues with. And I'm like, I don't think it's right. I don't think it's right when people are being political. And now I think if you went through my tweets, you'd probably see one or two where I have been. But certainly over the last 6 months, I've tried not to be. Because it ruins your opinions of your idols, for one. And I'm not really bothered about people's political views because Twitter is used for political views. But it's more about you expose... the minute you start being political is the minute you start... All right, you probably attract some people, but you lose other people. And I don't think that's not... That to me is not what the platform's for. And to be honest with you, I've lost a lot of respect for Gary Lineker, and I'm sure he's crying into his... avocado sandwich this lunchtime because I'm sure he's an avid follower of me. He won't be, but I've lost a lot of respect for him because what I grew up thinking and even on Match of the Day seeing, it's sort of eroded because I've seen what his opinions are and I disagree with them strongly. And it's not... I suppose what I'm trying to say is that this could be Jesse Lingard, this could be Paul Pogba, it could be Piers Morgan, it could be anybody. And it's just interesting that in this social media world, which I think has got so many positives, I think that people probably do themselves more damage than good in some ways when they start to be a little bit too opinionated. And Piers has got it right. He says Lineker's a naive virtue signaller. He's well out of his depth on political issues, and I think you've hit that on the head there. It's like they're dangerous people, effectively, aren't they? Because the good one here from Artificial Music, it was when he tweeted about Ronaldo's plane. He's just a Spanish Raul. So Ronaldo put that picture out, didn't he, of himself in a plane, and it was around the time that missing plane with Sarri had gone missing, obviously. And Gary Lineker retweeted with a quote Ronaldo's tweet of him in a plane saying, "Now is not the time." Virtue signaller. Who the fuck are you, really? You know. You're getting involved in stuff. You know, your mind's, the mind's writing check. Your bank account can't pay. You know, it's like, who are you? You're not Jesus. You're not God. You're not president. You're not anything. So he's got every right to tweet. Of course he has, and all these people have. But what they do is they end up being quite divisive, because if you've got somebody who likes Ronaldo and Gary Lineker, you've just pissed them off. And I don't think they realise it. I think they think they've got so many followers, they start to think they can do what they like, and actually you'll lose people, if that makes sense. Maybe I've gone down an alley here that I don't know what I'm on about, but I do know what I'm on about. I just think the dangerous side about social media is when these people start being the virtue signalers, when they start being political, that's when they lose me, a lot of them, because they're not going to hit every nail on the head. Because I don't know about you, but my political views are, I voted for one party in my lifetime and I voted for another. I'm not adamantly this or that. I've had a belief about one thing and then I've gone and experienced it and I've changed it. Like Ireland, I don't want to get into that politically, but I had a bit of an opinion before I lived there. Then when I went and lived there, I saw a different opinion. So yeah, it is interesting. It certainly is, and I don't know how you solve it. But it's like, as I said last week, like, you know, bringing it back into football a little bit. When that person last week was having a pop at me and calling me a prick and everything like that, water off a duck's back. But when they're talking about Jesse Lingard going, I love to be 20 years younger, I'll fuck him up and this, that and the other, I'm like, oh, what a shame. What an absolute shame. Because you have got over 100,000 followers, a lot of people watch your videos, and I'd say a few 100,000 impressionable people potentially have just heard you say, I fucking hate Jesse Lingard, I'd love to snap him. So you're basically saying you would love to be on a football pitch and break his leg. Well done to you. That's a really good message to send out there. And that again is the problem with social media. Is that people are the only thing policing them is their opinion. And if it's a dangerous opinion, I mean, at the end of the day, you can cut through the bullshit and you can basically say Gary Lineker's tweet about Ronaldo was just inciting hatred to Ronaldo in a smug way. That about Jesse Lingard is just inciting violence. Yeah, and I think that's something I try to do when I haven't had 5 pints, is when I put a tweet out there, what's the message underneath it? And I don't think people think that sometimes. Like, if you talk about mean tweets, there was one this morning. If Goldbridge ever went to Old Trafford, there'd be a queue to beat the shit out of the nonce. And I think, well, what's that tweet really saying? They hate me and they'd like to see me get hurt. And you can any sort of any tweet, any video, anything like that, you can sort of see what the underlying thing is. And I don't think people have the responsibility or the intelligence to think about that. I think sometimes they get so lost in their own ego. That's what it's all about. Bee Gees or the Beatles? Look, I love Staying Alive. Ha ha ha! Staying alive. Staying alive. I like that. But I don't think the Bee Gees could hold a torch to the Beatles, to be honest with you. Did you see Lineker got offered the role to play Dumbo in the new film, says Scott Summers? Trading Cards and More says, I met you at Old Trafford. It was mint. I've been to Old Trafford 4 times this season. I've had hardly any trouble at all. Do you know why? Because I'm not looking for trouble for people. I'm not saying that I'm a voice for anything other than the United Stand, and we just do our own thing. And if people want to spread lies and bullshit, that's up to them, isn't it? But that's not me. I'm not bothered. H says, I love the United Stand. You've got lots of different characters. We do. That's good. Six Nations this weekend, says Menton. I do quite like the rugby, to be honest with you. I do quite like the rugby, so I'm looking forward to that. Thoughts on Ian Wright, Mark, says Aza. I don't really know much about Ian Wright. I haven't watched the True Geordies podcast with him yet, which I will do over the weekend. But I don't really know anything about him. So I reserve judgment on people I don't know a lot about. But when people do show you a lot about what they're all about, then you can make a mind up, can't you? All right, I will do this. A lot of people ask me about this, so if you're bored, it's up to you. Obviously, I worked in policing, so let me just give you a bit of a background to this, because I do find it quite funny sometimes, some of the things that people say about me. There's a misconception that I've got a university background. Bollocks. There's a misconception that I'm upper class. Bollocks. Or middle class. Bollocks. And because you've been in the police, there's a misconception about that as well. Right. Here we go then. So I left school at 16, which was the stupidest thing I've ever done, and I would implore nobody to do that. I walked out of school having done my GCSEs at 16, and that was the last bit of education I had. Yes, I probably have got the sort of mind and intelligence to have done a university degree or something like that, and that's not being arrogant. I am fairly intelligent. I'm not massively intelligent compared to some people I know, but I should have done that. But my family background, always has been working class, but more importantly, quite successful. Most of my family have got their own businesses and stuff now, but manual. They're not, I suppose to be blunt, they're not bookworms, they're not that sort of thing. They're manual workers, and that's what they do, and they've done really well. So I'm quite different in that sense, because physically, as you can tell, I'm not that way. My strength is my personality, he says, but I'm a thinker. So I was sort of in the wrong sort of family, really, because I was never going to be pushed to do homework or go and do a degree or anything like that, whereas my children will be. So I left school at 16. That was my own decision. And I got to about, I did a bit of travelling and stuff, and I did various different jobs. And I suppose I got a degree in life, which I think I don't have a problem with that, because doing lots of different things, meeting lots of different people is a really good thing. But I came back from Ireland when I was about 22, 23. And although I'd had a good job in Ireland, it just didn't seem to be working. I couldn't get the job I thought I would get here. And I was like, I'm in shit here. I've actually had a good job in Ireland. I've come back here and I'm on shit money and I'm starting again. So I was like, I can't do this. I'm just in a new relationship as well. What am I going to do? So I went to Football Manager is going to be on That's Football at 1:30. So I was looking around, and somebody said to me, why don't you go in the police? And I was like, I remember I was in the pub at the time, I was laughing. I went, I ain't going in the police. My family hate the police. They'll absolutely disown me. And they were like, yeah, but if you go in there, it's a profession. It will absolutely absorb the fact that your CV looks terrible because you have got no qualifications. And you'll have and they basically said it's either the police or the army. I didn't fancy the army, not in my 20s. I just didn't fancy it. I didn't. I had a problem with discipline, and I was like, okay, I'll do the police, because the army, I won't last 5 minutes. I can't be shouted at like that. It just wasn't me. I was quite an angry young man, you see. So I joined the police in the Midlands. Obviously, I'm from Nottingham, so that was the thing I did. I didn't want to do it around where I'd grown up, because I just didn't want that. I didn't want to be dealing with people I'd been at school with or anything like that, or my family. But so yeah, I joined the police in the West Midlands, and I went into it with two goals, really. One, that I would never do. I wasn't doing it forever. Most people go in the police and it's their career until they retire. I wasn't doing it to do that. And two, I didn't want to be stopping people and giving them fines or doing, the shit stuff. I wanted to do high-end crime. So I went into it, I did my beat stuff, and very quickly I got myself onto like robbery teams and murder squads, and then ended up in financial stuff, which was quite good. So yeah, that was the story behind it. But it's funny because you get these people who have a misconception about it, and a lot of people dislike the police. And to be honest with you, I dislike the police, and I probably dislike it more having been in it, because of the idiots they've got running it, because of the corruption that goes involved in relation to promotion processes and the incompetence at different levels. It's a bloody mess, and I was glad to get out of it. But it's really funny because people talk about it like they have a misconception about you. And I can tell you, one of the most difficult conversations I ever had was telling my family I was going in. Most of them didn't speak to me for a long time properly, and some of them didn't really speak to me that much for the time I was in it. But I did it to sort my life out. It gave me some discipline. Actually, it really did give me some discipline, and it gave me a platform to go in there for a few years, do the things I wanted to do, and then when I came out of there, it was very easy to get jobs in the area I wanted to get jobs in. So I used it for my benefit, and I learnt a lot from it. But some of the things I saw as well, and some of the things that I investigated, I was talking to somebody about this last night. Somebody said, well, why did you leave if you were in it if you were in it and you were doing it for moral reasons, which I wanted to help people. But it's a cycle, isn't it? I helped a lot of people. I investigated some quite serious crimes, and people say, well, why did you leave? Because those things are still going on. Look at the knife crime in London. It's increasing everywhere. And I said, to be honest with you, when you've dealt with things like, women being absolutely beaten half to death, or, a teenager being stabbed and dealing with the murder or whatever like that, when you've dealt with that, there's always another one. There's always another one. There's always another one. So jumping off that wheel, it wouldn't matter if I did 10 years, 5 years, 30 years. It's a cycle. It will just keep going round and round and round. What do I do now? Well, I'm sitting here talking to you. Do you think the police get a lot of undeserved hate for being racist, even though they are doing their job, says the1,951? No, I don't. You know what? I don't, because I think that it's such a big organisation. There are bullies in there. There are good people in there. There are racists in there. There are homophobes in there. There are corrupt people in there. But in the majority, a lot of them are good at what they do. But when you've got such a big organisation, you're always going to get the shit. You've got corrupt people in there who go in there with the sole purpose of causing problems. There's plants in there. Organised crime groups put people in there. You know, all these things that you think don't happen, they do. Would you recommend getting into the police, Mark, says Kieran Byrne? Personally, I wouldn't. I think they do a fantastic job. I'm not in contact with anybody who's in there anymore, but I wouldn't do it because they're cut to the bone. You don't get paid well enough, and it's a bit of a mess at the moment, so I wouldn't recommend doing it. Jay Kings makes a good point. He says 99% aren't racist, Mark. You're probably right there, but unfortunately it's the 1%, isn't it? It's like having a big vat of water, one drop of blood in it, and it's infected, isn't it? That's how it works. I know I left about 5 years ago, so I've not done it for a long time. Nando's order, says Tom Wilson. It'd have to be chicken. It would have to be chicken for me. It would have to be chicken. Bubble and Squeak says this has been great. Oh, bloody hell, we are coming towards the end as well. Please do subscribe to the channel if you're new, bottom right hand corner, and drop a like on it. I mean, we don't know how many of these we're going to do. I think we're on episode 4 now, and I do need to try and get them loaded up onto a proper podcast platform. But I enjoy doing it. I look forward to doing it on a Friday, to be honest with you. I've got an exciting thing I'm working on next week on this channel as well. It's interesting, this channel. It's been good for me. I enjoy doing it because it's nothing... football's a little bit, but it's a little bit more than that. And I am really enjoying it. So subscribe if you're new. And please do drop a like on the video. Snooker Grand Prix on Monday on ITV4, says Douglas. I hope you've been watching the German Masters, Douglas. The setup's amazing there. So you've got a table there, and you've got tables around the edge. I'm massively into my snooker. I used to love snooker when I was younger, and then I just didn't watch it. And then I started watching it just before Christmas, and there's loads of tournaments at the moment. People will be like, what, snooker? No, I do like it. No, I haven't had my fish and chips today, Neil. I wish I had. And how did you... You used to be able to join without qualifications, Tom. I don't know what it's like now. Very interesting show, says Matthew Swatton. Well, we try to mix it up with some serious stuff and a little bit of comedy and stuff like that. You know, try and keep it light-hearted. I've only ever been to Nando's once, T-Goon. I've been to Nando's once. There you go. That's a shocker for you. Anyway, let me just say, I need to watch the Vikings. I'd love to come to Australia. Conspiracy theories. Bloody hell. I knew there was something I wanted to talk about. Right, chuck me some conspiracy theories very quickly and we'll carry it on the next show next week. Lots of people keep saying to me, do conspiracy theories, right? So... an example of a conspiracy theory is that the Titanic, it wasn't actually the Titanic, it was an insurance scam, and they used its sister ship. I think it was the Britannia, or was it the Louisiana? I think it was the Britannia. But yeah, chuck me some conspiracy theories very, very quickly, and we'll pick it up next week. I mean, 9/11 as a conspiracy theory. Some people really think that. I mean, all I can do is give you my opinion. I haven't researched these things. 9/11 is a conspiracy theory. They killed a lot of people in one of the biggest cities in the world just to be able to evade Iraq. I'm not saying it's impossible, but I think, to me, my thought on that is that's just fits a conspiracy theory's agenda. I cannot for the life of me think that is true. Michael Jackson still alive, says I speak the truth. No, I don't think he would have wanted to fake his own death because he had a big tour coming up. So no, I think he's dead. Was JFK killed by the government? You see, JFK is a brilliant story. It's not brilliant for JFK, but it's a brilliant story. I personally have watched a lot of things on that, and I do think that he was taken out by. There's more to that. He was certainly taken out by somebody in power. The fact that it's never really been released as to who it was either. Bermuda Triangle's gone a bit quiet, hasn't it, Vase Khan? I used to be interested in the Bermuda Triangle, but when was the last time anything went missing there? The Egyptians building the pyramids exactly north, says Paul Hunter. Ollie says it was a scam. That guy, that Lee Harvey Oswald, didn't shoot him. K-Dog, Madeleine McCann was killed by her parents. I've got no evidence to say that that's the truth, but personally I think that something dodgy went on there, the way it was handled. There's talk of that area of Portugal being a bit of a hub for all sorts of dodgy things like paedophilia and stuff like that. I mean, something's dodgy's gone off there. And also, I think there's talk of like there's certain bits of land that they're not allowed to dig up, and they suspect that they know where the body is. And then there was the blood in the car that the dog smelt. There's something dodgy about that. There is something dodgy about that. Death of Princess Diana, Kieran McGorry, maybe. Fake moon landing, says Ryan Beals. I don't think so. I don't think it was fake. Jack the Ripper a royal, says Viking Red. Australia is apparently a hoax. So everybody who's watching from Australia here, you're all fake. You're just government agents pretending that Australia exists. Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that one. Earth is flat. A lot of people saying Earth is flat. I don't want to get into the Earth flat thing because I said something about it before and people sent me loads of like web articles saying that you're wrong, so I don't want to get into that. Anyway, we've overrun a little bit. Please do drop a like on the video. Oh God, my back's hurting a bit. Subscribe if you know, and remember at 1:30 on Mark Goldbridge That's Football we start episode 1 of Football Manager 19, Salford City, Vanarama to the Premier League. I've got the class of 92 as my chairman. It's going to be interesting to watch. Let's see how that goes. So 1:30 for that. Thanks everybody for watching. I'll speak to you soon. I hope you're enjoying it. Let's see how these shows go. And if they keep doing well, we'll keep doing them. Speak to you all soon.